Just really excited to be playing basketball. You know, it's like at the top of the list of all the reasons to keep playing is just to play another day. You know, to have another practice, to have another team trip, to have another individual, and ultimately to have another game just means the world to us. I think in our program, there's a lot of things we stand for, but at the top of the list is just the love of the game. It's the first thing we look for in recruiting, and what we constantly remind our players is just how fortunate and lucky we are just to be playing this game. So certainly to be one of the 16 teams left standing, you know, just means the world to us. Um, we have nothing but respect for Purdue's program. I'm kind of a fan of their team. Anytime I have a chance to watch a game, whether I'm recruiting and at a restaurant somewhere, or maybe late night going through the channels, probably saw Purdue play 5 or 6 times this year just as a fan. Coach Painter, somebody that's been great to me during my career, somebody I really look up to, somebody that hasn't changed, although his level of status has changed during his career. He's still the same great guy. Then on his staff, Steve Lutz is one of my personal friends. We started coaching together back in '95. Me and Lutz were graduate assistants together, so a lot of ties to this game. We played Purdue a couple years ago in the tournament, and some of those same players are still on this team. So nobody has more respect for Purdue than we do, and we're expecting a situation where we have to play our best 40 minutes of the season to have a chance to win this game, and that's our objective.
Okay, we'll invite questions for Coach. Raise your hand. We'll get a microphone over to you. We'll start over here with Mike. Oh, where are our microphones?
Coach Mike Abelson. Hey, it works this time. Mike Abelson, New Hampshire Union leader. How much did the grind of the Big 12 conference play help shape this team's success? And what does it say about the league that you have, this is 4 schools still left from the Big 12 here?
I think most of the coaches in our league, myself included, have been on the record to say that we respectfully think that the Big 12 conference is the best conference in basketball this season. And there's a million reasons why, but I just think from top to bottom of our 10 teams, we have no bottom team. The parity in the league is just it's just a grind. We obviously have Hall of Fame coaches, Coach Huggins, Coach Self, Coach Kruger. I mean, you continue to go down the list. Every team has NBA players or prospects. So I'm just really proud to be associated with the Big 12. While you're in the 2 or 3 month grind, it's just brutal. But I think it does pay some dividends when you get to postseason basketball because you feel like you're prepared for anything. And that was certainly the case with us. When we finally got to Dallas and we had a chance to play Stephen F. Austin, we were just kind of relieved not to have to play against another Big 12 team. And then the same thing with Florida. Even though those are 2 great teams, we just felt like we were prepared for those moments because of the conference. The fact that there's 4 Big 12 teams in the Sweet 16, it's just not surprising to me at all. I just think the league was that good this year.
Bob Kravitz with NBC in Indianapolis. Can you speak a little bit about the influence that Bob Knight had on you and your career?
Yeah, I'm really proud of my path in coaching and my association with the people that I've worked with and for. And certainly I'm associated with Coach Knight and Pat Knight a lot, and that's something I'm proud of, and I'll talk about as long as people want to listen. Just a huge break getting on with Coach and Pat as a young assistant. I just felt like every day it was like getting a PhD in coaching, just being around Coach and seeing how he coached the game, thought the game, ran a program, treated players, supported academics. To me, he's just the best that ever did it. I think there's a whole side of Coach Knight that people know, and there's a whole side of Coach Knight that people don't know, and that's the unselfish, caring, just genuine person that I had the privilege to be around, for almost a decade. And then what people don't understand is, too, is like Pat Knight, his son, is one of the all-time best people I've ever been around, a brilliant basketball mind. And I learned as much from Pat, as I did from Coach. And so many things I learned on those days, but mainly the top of the list would be just the idea of preparation, preparing to win, preparing to be good, the discipline to play on both ends of the floor, a commitment to academics, to graduate every player, and above all, to do things right. You think of our game and everything going on today and going on yesterday and what will be going on tomorrow. And when you think of Coach Knight, to win at that level, 3 national championships, and not even a hint of an NCAA violation, and I think that's just really what his legacy is, a guy that won at the highest level, doing it the right way. And I hope that one day, in some small way, they look back at our teams and said, hey, those guys were similar.
Back here.
Mike DeFabo, CNHI. Chris, right now you guys are 4th in defensive efficiency. I'm curious, just in what ways have you tried to instill that kind of mentality on your team?
Well, we're a defensive team. It's the first thing we do in recruiting. We say, what kind of guy, can the guy play defense? We talk to high school coaches and junior college coaches and grassroots AAU coaches and say, does this guy want to defend? Does he have the talent to defend? It's just like where our process starts. Every day in practice, we spend more time on defense than even offense. Even today in a 90-minute shoot-around, we spent more time on defense than probably even getting shots up. Ultimately, I hope that doesn't come back and get us. You got to make some shots in this game too. But then I'm really proud of our staff. Mark Adams on our staff is not a well-known name nationally, but he's well known in our part of the country and anybody that understands defensive basketball. Coach Adams has been a Division I head coach. He's won a junior college national championship. He's had this huge path in coaching, and everywhere he's been, they've been a top defensive team, including our team at Little Rock and now our team at Texas Tech. So I'd give Coach Adams a lot of credit, as well as our other coaches. But more than anything, we're a defensive culture, identity. We play pickup games in the summer, and the team that gets a stop scores the point. So it's just kind of the way we look at basketball.
Nicole?
Nicole Auerbach, The Athletic. Is this Nicole Auerbach, The Athletic? Chris, I'm wondering, you were saying that, when you're flipping through the channels and you catch Purdue and you watch them, and you said 5 or 6 times this year. What is it about? Is it the style of play? You talked about Matt Painter, but is it something, what else draws you to watching their team when there's no real reason they're not in your league and they're just on?
Their first personal relationships. Again, Steve Lutz on their staff's one of my best friends. I think I was in Steve's wedding. I don't know. You get my age, you kind of forget. I kind of characterize weddings on, like, who had the best reception. Was it an open bar? Was it were we in Hawaii? But I think I was in Lutz's wedding, maybe. I know he came to mine, my first wedding. Only had one. And then Matt Painter is just somebody I respect so much. Matt Painter is the same guy today than he was when he was an assistant coach at Southern Illinois, when he was recruiting our players at Fort Scott Community College. Now he's at Purdue. He's one of the best coaches in the game. He's just the same guy. We've recruited against him. I talk basketball with Matt. I just have a lot of respect for him. We're not like great friends. We don't talk all the time, but there's nobody I respect more in basketball than Matt. Then with Purdue, just the way they play. I mean, just the influence of Coach Katie, who played for Coach Sutton. We have Sean on our staff, Coach Knight and Coach Katie going at it all those years. I just think there's a lot of basketball in this game, and what draws me to Matt's teams and just watching on TV, because at the pure of everything, I'm a fan. Like, I'm just a basketball guy is what I am. So I just love watching Purdue play, because they guard, they take great shots, they act the right way, they respect the game. To me, Purdue's everything right with college basketball, and I hope that people think the same thing of our program.
Lisa Chung with the Skyboat. You came into Texas Tech and basically turned the basketball program around. Can you talk about the adversity that you dealt with to get to this point, and also what did that teach you?
Yeah, adversity is something that kind of in kind of a sick, competitive way we almost look forward to, because I tell the guys, like, basketball is like life. It's the best education you can ever get. And just like life, all of us know this. It's not a matter of, like, if adversity is coming. It's when. Everybody in this room right now is going through something, a loved one with cancer, a problem at home, a financial problem. And we all have adversity. That's what life is, but it's how you respond to it. And so with our basketball teams, we've always just kind of embraced this. So in practice, we try to create adversity so we can fight through it. And then when it comes kind of in a twisted, competitive way, we almost embrace it. I think it's why sometimes you see our teams come back from deficits. We almost kind of enjoy being in those moments. This year's team, I'm so proud of them because we've overcome a lot. And some of it is like, things we can't control, injuries. We really thought we were in a position to try to win the Big 12 conference. And we just, didn't have a chance to do that full strength down the stretch. Not an excuse, just reality. Then we thought we had a chance, maybe in the Big 12, we always have some adversity. And so I'm proud of this team for a lot of reasons, but the top of that list is how we've overcome a lot of adversity, and we're still here standing. We're in the Sweet 16, and so I'm really proud of that.
Back to Bob.
What's up, Bob Kravitz, NBC in Indianapolis. Having been the coach at Little Rock a couple of years ago when you beat Purdue, that Purdue team is not demonstrably different than it was 2 years ago. Are there certain things that you can draw upon from that experience that you could use in this game?
I think so. I think coach's speech would be, no, it's a different game, 2 different teams, but that's not true. Like, any coach in this tournament that's ever coached against somebody he's playing, I guarantee has gone back and watched that game, even if it's 3, 4, 5 years ago. It's just a feel because teams and programs and coaches have personalities and identities. And so I would bet that Matt watched the game too. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would bet that. From our standpoint, Purdue has some players that played in that game years ago. And another thing that's so obvious to me is how those players have improved. That's another sign of Coach Painter and his coaching staff and those players, being basketball guys that get better. But, yeah, I think there might be some similarities. What I told our guys is this. I know Purdue. I know this. They're well coached. They don't beat themselves. They'll play as hard as anybody on our schedule. They do a great job with shot selection. They're going to make changes and adjustments throughout the game. And I'm saying this based on firsthand experience, having been in the game with them a couple years ago.
Here in front.
Hey, Coach, it's Mustios, WGBH News. Your team made the roughly 2,000-mile trip from the South Plains, where it's a lot warmer, to here in Boston. How are they reacting to being in the middle of a nor'easter?
Oh, I think they're fine. I mean, you're talking to a guy that used to drive the bus and the van 18 hours, to get somewhere. So at this level, when people talk about travel or distance or weather, it's like comical. I mean, we're on a jet that has a heater in it. It only took 3 hours to get here. When we got here, we're eating like unbelievable food at the hotel. Like, I understand the question and all that, but like from my point of view, I'm just glad I'm not driving a 15-passenger van that doesn't have a heater, that has a gas leak and only an AM radio. Which AM radio is not bad. You think I don't know. AM radio is great. It teaches you kind of a history. Great talk radio on AM radio. I need to get that's what I'm going to do today for my daughters. I'm going to teach them about AM radio.
We have time for a couple more just in the back here.
Delilah. Remember that talk show, Delilah? When I was in junior college, I used to listen to the Delilah show.
Howie Kasoy, New York Post. Chris, just kind of reflecting on these long drives you used to have and all the stops you had along the way, does the further you get into the tournament make you reflect more on how quickly a lot of this has come about and all the stops you had before?
Not right now, but I anticipate after the season, absolutely. And this is special. I haven't been able to sleep for a lot of reasons. Purdue, Coach Painter, but also just having so much fun. Like, I don't want to, waste a minute of this, really to the purity, that's where it's at. And I can't speak for these other guys, like the teams that we're sharing this regional with. I mean, they've been here so many times, but for us, it's like we're just embracing it. We're so excited to have another practice. We're so excited to have another pregame meal. We just don't want it to end. And I think a lot of times, some teams are just kind of ready to cash it in for whatever reason, but late in the season, good or bad. But this year's team, man, we just embrace practice. We love being around each other. That doesn't mean it's always kumbaya. It's not like these guys are all best of friends, but there's a certain core togetherness with this team. And as much as I would like to take credit for that, I can't. Anybody playing right now has internal leadership. Anybody right now has probably great seniors on their team. Anybody right now has a team that loves playing together, and that's certainly us. So I'm just enjoying the ride. I can't state that enough, just how excited I am for one more day.
Final question for Coach right here.
Mark Herman from Newsday, New York. Chris, you're talking about adversity. Can you just talk a little bit, explain a little bit about what Keenan has had to go through in terms of his physical health and, I didn't say have a foot situation that's kept him from being 100%?
Yeah, those guys, we'll never talk about that because it's an excuse, but I think, it's one of my jobs to represent those guys. Absolutely, I'll talk about it. Keenan Evans has been a warrior. He's got a situation with his toe that's not easy. It's a lot of pain. He's had to be very disciplined on when he can practice and when he can't, and it's been one of the most impressive things I've seen. Our trainer Chris Williams, our team doctor Dr. Scoville, and Keenan. It's been just a lot of work. Simply stated, a lot of guys wouldn't even be playing right now, and Keenan's playing on it and playing at a high level. Just an absolute warrior, and I think after the season, the true story will kind of come out. And then I'd put Zach Smith in that same category. I mean, Zach Smith was voted a first-team all-conference player in the Big 12 and basically didn't play the Big 12 season. Was told by everybody he probably wasn't going to play again this year and just kept fighting, and now he's really helping us. Although he's kind of rusty because he hadn't played ball in a long time, he's really helping us just with his talent, and his heart, and his athleticism. Justin Gray's been battling some injuries on and off throughout the season. So, again, not an excuse, but I feel like it's my – I've taken up for my guys. I'm so proud of them for fighting through that. I kind of put the coach's speech on the shelf and speak from my heart and say, these are guys that are playing kind of banged up and playing at a high level, and I have nothing but respect for them.